back. We're live here for the 2 o'clock rock. Community Matters with Peter Carlisle. You remember Peter Carlisle. He was the mayor of the city and county of Honolulu. Before that, he was the prosecuting attorney of the city and county of Honolulu. And now he's just a practicing attorney.
I'm a partner in the law firm of O'Connor, Playton, and Gubin.
Good.
Proudly so.
Good transition. And you like your new career?
I do. I'm around a bunch of people who know a lot more than I do because I have to go through a complete retooling of my knowledge of the law and the practice of the law. And these people all are absolutely dynamite. They're very bright, and they're very, very forgiving of my many inadequacies, which is important.
You were no stranger to the courtroom back in the day when you were prosecuting attorney. I remember that.
I spent a lot of time in the courtroom, and I was basically playing the role of the mud marine. You know, you've got these glorious appellate lawyers, and you've got the federal government, which is the high flyers and the sky people. And then you've got the mud marines, which are prosecuting attorneys who go and try cases personally.
Yeah. That was Peter. I remember some of the cases you tried too. They were really notorious. Anyway, throughout all of this, you held your sense of humor, which is commendable and still today.
Well, I have a lot to laugh about, particularly when I'm looking in the mirror, so that makes it easy.
So we're here today to talk about marijuana. Medical marijuana goes mainstream here in Hawaii. This is a remarkable thing that's happened. I guess it was long in coming. And maybe, you know, it's part of a transition to recreational marijuana down the road. So we're all trying to find out how it works. And to their credit, the legislature, you know, they negotiated this bill. I'm sure there were a lot of factors and influences and vectors and lobbyists and whatnot who came and talked to them about it. And we do have a bill. It's like the little puff of smoke in the Vatican. We do have a bill. And now the job, you know, and in the words, the last line of Portnoy's complaint was, and now we begin. Because in truth, this is the beginning, isn't it?
We're actually now at the implementation stage. I mean, the applications are in. There is now a waiting day until tax day, April 15th. And then we will learn who is going to be the people, who are going to be the people who are basically getting the opportunity to both produce and to distribute medicinal marijuana.
Yeah, this is a very interesting moment for you because as prosecuting attorney, you know, probably a plurality of cases was about drugs and marijuana being a big one in those days. And for years and years, you know, it was illegal and people were using it and people were getting prosecuted for using it and selling it and dealing and all that. And so what was your involvement in that kind of prosecution in the days gone by?
Absolutely unequivocally. I was hostile to the idea of recreational marijuana. I did not believe then, and I still do not believe now that we need to have recreational marijuana in Hawaii. I do not believe it should be legalized. There are all sorts of aspects of using marijuana and distributing marijuana that are detrimental to the community health and well-being, and I will still stand by that to this day. On the other hand, I was unaware and uneducated about the change and the landscape involving something that is more a science and a pharmaceutical, which is medicinal marijuana or medicinal cannabis. It's called both. And so it took me a sort of a learning process. And when I found out that there was going to be this chance that I was going to be involved in medicinal marijuana, I was very, very skeptical. And went to see Mike McGuigan, who is the managing partner, and he and I were both buddies back in the prosecutorial days, battling crime and the bad guys. And he said, well, slow down here, you know, rein in the horse, and let's really talk about this and see what exists and whether it's science or not. And it doesn't take a lot of basically research to find out that there is a very, very, to my mind, clear line between that which is medicine and that which is recreational.
Let's review that. First, we're going to talk to Alexa for a minute. Alexa, what is marijuana?
Cannabis, also known as marijuana and by numerous other names, is a preparation of the cannabis plant intended for use as a psychoactive drug or medicine.
Ha! She included medical purposes in that definition.
We've come a long way already in terms of the educational process. Of course, we're not at the front end of this. That's been on the mainland, and frankly, in Canada, it's been around for quite some time.
How many states have adopted medical marijuana?
I think it's 23 now. I think that's
almost half.
Yeah, that was, and that might not be completely accurate.
Yeah, sure.
But that's, and to my mind, that's a really, really good step forward for something that's going to help people who have a medicinal need.
So let's review what you learned in the course of your marijuana epiphany, if I may. Tell us about the medical aspect of medical marijuana.
Well, essentially, for years and years, there have been beneficial aspects of the cannabis plant. And it's been used as salves for centuries. It's been used for its euphoric purposes and as something that can address pain for centuries upon centuries. And as a result, we are now finally getting over a period where it was not something that was ever going to be possibly discussed at the table in a place where the federal government said that this is, an abusive substance.
Still does.
Still does.
There's a weird conflict.
Well, happily it shifted over back to the states. I mean, they took this hot potato and they gave it back to the states. And when they gave it back to the states, that's when the people who wanted to try and completely legalize it sort of geared up. And then it was also the time when the medical profession geared up for the purposes of aiding patients who are in distress.
So let's go back for a minute to the 60s. When this was in widespread use, it was a kind of an icon of the 60s, that whole generation, our generation, coming up. Everybody was using it, everybody was offering it. It was I wouldn't say medicinal, but it was certainly social in those days. And it was illegal, and you could get in real trouble possessing it. And, there had to be reasons, if you will, for the statutes all around the country to have been adopted to make it illegal. What was the problem with marijuana then?
Well, the problem with marijuana then was that, I mean, if you go back to the devil weed that they had and the list of things that they described as what it was going to do to you, reefer madness and all of those types of labels, it became something that people were afraid of. And frankly, that was probably severely overemphasized.
It really wasn't as bad as as legislatures thought it was.
No, or as law enforcement thought it was too.
Yeah.
But there is the other aspect of it is that the legal drugs that we've had so far haven't been something that you would really want to emulate in any shape, fashion, or form. I mean, tobacco has done incredible amount of damages. I mean, kills more people on an annual basis than just about anything else.
Alcohol is pretty dangerous
Alcohol is way up on the list, and it's, we all know about the dangers of drinking and driving and drunken people who lose their jobs, who steal from their children's educational funds. All of those things are absolutely 100% still a problem today. And if you want to take a look at a death toll, the death toll that we have on the streets of the United States due to drunken drivers, and unfortunately a lot of them are young people who lose their lives, it far exceeds some of the havoc that's going on right now with terrorism across the world.
I guess one of the reasons that legislators and prosecutors were concerned about marijuana back in those days is they thought that it was habit forming. They thought if you had a toke of marijuana, you were going to do it again and again, and it would take you down, the road to perdition. Is that not true? Was that not true then? Is it not true now?
No, you can definitely become addicted to marijuana. There are dangers that can occur, and it's not an inconsequential number of people who do get addicted to marijuana. But the point of the matter is everybody gets addicted to alcohol. That's lo and behold legal. Everybody gets addicted to tobacco, or many people do. That's legal. So what can we learn from those basically the difficulties that we had with those two substances, and how is it going to fit in now with a place where we do have, at least in hospitals, the use of morphine and other opiates. So the opium poppy has been used for an extremely long time to deal with people who are in pain. Now there is another alternative that might not have some of the basically the drawbacks that you have in the opium poppy, including morphine and heroin, the two sort of ill-born children of opium.
Plus all the other drugs that have been discovered since the 60s.
Well, of course, the nightmare drug being, of course, crystal methamphetamine.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's highly addictive, and that's not going away yet. We still have problems with it.
So we have to make a rational comparison of these things. And I suppose one of the things in the 60s was, well, you were not in your own mind, when you got high on marijuana. It's sort of like alcohol. But in fact, I'm not sure that it's that highly leveraged as alcohol. I mean, you don't lose your mind. You don't go completely irrational bonkers. I suppose you could if you overdid it, but the ordinary use of marijuana, especially in a medical context, is you're not going to be drunk over it, right?
No, but you can. There are both euphoric effects and dysphoric effects with marijuana. Euphoric is, you know, the feeling high, the idea of feeling you're excited, everything is happy, the sun is shining, it's the best of all possible worlds. And of course, the payback for that is the dysphoric effect, where basically you feel the world is coming to an end, that you're depressed, everything is gloom and doom, and you know, and those are the peaks and valleys of drug abuse and use of drugs.
But compared to other drugs like LSD, for example, this is relatively benign.
Well, and I think that's reflected in how seriously it's taken by law enforcement. I mean, if you take crystal methamphetamine, that was at one point automatic jail time because we didn't want you infecting other people with your problems.
Yeah, and doing violent things and completely irresponsible things. Crystal meth makes you do crazy things.
Absolutely, and the same thing is true for some of the other drugs. It's never been, at least in recent time, that we're going out with SWAT officers to go get the person who's smoking pot on the corner of Nuuanu and Baratania. You know, I mean, that's just not the way it works, and it's reflected in how it is not taken as something that is a mega league problem that requires immediate incarceration and isolation.
Fast forward, 50 years really from the 60s, and now we've seen many drugs. We live in a kind of chemical environment. There are drugs for everything. Just check out your favorite television ads and you see they play one drug after another, telling you should go to your doctor and get prescribed for a dozen drugs over and over again. I mean, we live in a drug-filled environment, and that's the way it is with high tech, with modern medicine and technology.
Yeah, and actually in a lot of those instances, they give you all of the drawbacks, but you then get to make a conscious decision. I know that this has this propensity that could help me, as opposed to these, which I now consider to be basically minuscule. It's like people get bitten, killed by sharks, but it doesn't happen to many people.
Yeah.
And the same thing would be true in this. So, and if the person is suffering enough, then that is something that they would confront. I mean, there's no end to suffering as we age, unfortunately. And some people suffer a lot more because of the level of injury or disease that they're suffering through.
We're living longer and having, diseases that make us suffer.
Well, and then the other thing is that I think we've all seen somebody who we know who has gone through this process of chemotherapy, cancer treatments, you name it, and they've had some relief from marijuana, frequently illegally, and that's been true since back in the 60s. I had a friend who was going through prostate cancer, and he could not keep food down. He was sick all the time. It felt to him like he was on this ship at sea that was rolling, spinning around and creating nothing, and so he was sick and nauseated all the time. And then he was able and had access to non-medicinal marijuana. He had street marijuana, and he used it, and it apparently helped him.
Yeah.
And my mother had fibromyalgia, which is a very, very debilitating and very painful disease. And I am convinced that if we had medicinal marijuana at the time that she was passing away, that she would have used it, and it would have brought her some comfort. So I think we all have friends and relatives who've gone through that.
One more question before we go to a break, Peter, and that is, with marijuana as a medicine, is it like you take a pill or have a drink and you get a sort of a prolonged after effect? In other words, do I, in order to get the desired result and improve the quality of daily life for a given patient who is suffering, do I need to be smoking or ingesting marijuana all day long? Or can I, take marijuana, say, in the morning and have a continued benefit in the afternoon?
The answer to that is dosage. I mean, it all depends on who you are, what your circumstances are, what you need. There are some forms of marijuana that will have absolutely no euphoric effect whatsoever. On the other hand, marijuana stays in the system sometimes 10, 12 hours. Is it perpetually having the same effect over that period of time? Not necessarily. So it varies from patient to patient and from affliction to affliction. So that is a very, very significant question with no easy answer, but the desire at some point is to have this so it's dose appropriate for a 5-year-old girl or a guy or a young man who's going through this, or would fit people with your and my profile, which is much larger and much heavier.
Truth is, there hasn't been a lot of research on exactly how it affects the body. And now, because it was illegal now, and
Absolutely.
Now we're going to be able to do that research, gather data, and know a lot more about it.
That is really the silver lining of this cloud. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more, and I think you put it extremely well, is that we are now going to get out of the prohibition area where we were not, or time when we were not doing research, and now the floodgates are wide open for research. And I think that Honolulu, Hawaii would be an excellent place for it. One, because of its reputation, because of Maui Wowie and all of those things. But more importantly, I think it's because we have the facilities here to do peer-reviewed quality research on this particular incident.
By professionals who are not making evidence against themselves by keeping the data.
Absolutely, okay. I know where you're going on that. We may not agree on that 100%, but the answer is, yeah, you're going to have a chance to have, and we've got the Cancer Center here, we've got a phenomenal research capability of the University of Hawaii, and I think that in the long run is going to benefit every one of us here, and hopefully so that we can export it for the health of others. Okay,
but we do have a short run. We have a short-term thing. It's a break. We're going to take a break now.
A break?
A break. We're going to take a break. That's Peter Carlisle, former mayor and prosecutor for the city and county. We'll be right back.
Aloha, namaskar, and hello. My name is Anu Hito. My show is called Climate Change Beyond Outrage. In it, we go beyond outrage to discuss solutions to global problems on climate change facing people, nations, and the world. Join me here every Tuesday at 1 o'clock on Think Tech Hawaii. Aloha and bye-bye.
Aloha, my name is Josh Green. I'm a senator from the Big Island. I work in the ER there. But on Tuesday afternoons, I get to come and spend 45 minutes to an hour with Jay Fidell and the Think Tech staff. They're terrific professionals. They help us to bring some of the leading cutting-edge topics here across our state to you. So you can join us at our show on healthcare in Hawaii to talk with leaders from across all the spectrum of health in our state, or you can join us for any other show where we talk about economic development or tourism or some really eclectic programs too. So really, we'd love to see you here on our show. Thanks for joining us and thanks for supporting us.
Okay, we're back. We're live with Peter Carlisle, former prosecutor and mayor of the city and county of Honolulu, here talking about a really important new development in Hawaii, that is the medical marijuana law. We have a couple of tweets, questions by tweet, and I'm hoping that Peter will answer them. Why don't you read them and give credit to the person who asked them and see what you say about the answer.
Diarrhea, will nonviolent prisoners of pot laws be released? And will people fired over THC in their pee have recourse to get their jobs back? The answer to that is I don't know a whole lot of people who are in jail simply for pot alone. It's an unusual occurrence. I suppose it can happen, but I'm skeptical that it happens with any degree of regularity. So I think they're usually not taken into custody unless that there are other things that are found about their history, that they have an outstanding bench warrant, then those people are going to be taken and put in. And you could say it was pot that caused that. Well, it was the pot that started it, but it was their failure to show up or do whatever they did that created them to have this type of record. Will people fired over THC in their pee have recourse to get their jobs back? The answer to that is a little bit more complicated than the answer to the first part, and that is if you're a person who is working with heavy equipment or you're driving regularly and you have THC in your urine, that's an indication to anybody who is an employer that you may have a problem on your hand. And it may go through the usual course of step-by-step, first give you a warning, first give that, and that's, again, it depends on your history and just what exactly you were doing, but obviously we do not want people to be driving heavy equipment, using heavy equipment, flying airplanes if they have THC in their systems.
So the statute doesn't necessarily change the way things work in the workplace?
No.
If an employer fired somebody for that, he doesn't have to take them back. It might have been, well, presumably it was a legitimate firing for a legitimate reason.
Yeah. Then stoned free. Can we expect workplace drug testing to stop? The answer to that, it may have to do with what you have, what you're working on. Certainly we will not tolerate that in law enforcement. We would not tolerate it again in jobs where that would be detrimental to their ability to accomplish their mission as an employee. So the answer is they would definitely not, I do not expect workplace drug testing to stop where it is appropriate.
Suppose I'm doing medical marijuana and I'm not at home, I'm not in the hospital, I'm in my workplace. Does this change your answer?
It will definitely be an issue, except you might be able to have something from the doctor that will say, this is not the type of marijuana that produces any euphoric effect whatsoever. And when you have that basically type of documentation from your medical provider, you might be in a position that's quite dramatically different than somebody who does not have that type of permission from a medical source.
So let's shift to the, the continuum of implementation.
Okay.
The end of last session, 2014, make that 2015, the bill passed. And then there began, a lot of talk, a lot of meetings, a lot of sessions, a lot of public education. I was involved in one at the law school a few months ago, where the Bar Association wanted to learn what was going on. Business and business investors wanted to learn in the possibility that they would want to invest and participate in businesses around medical marijuana. We saw a lot in the media about it. But now we're at a different part. Now it's not just talk. There are actual things happening that take us on the road to implementation, which is not too far off. Can you describe where we are?
Well, we're now at the point where we're waiting for a decision, and we're expecting there to be absolute capacity to do these types of things in the summer.
Decision in what way?
Well, the decision that we're waiting for immediately is who's going to be getting the licenses. And then it's going to be their obligation to go hand in hand with basically the Department of Health to make sure that the timelines are set for us to be able to implement the production of marijuana, and then after that, when appropriate, to implement the dispensing of products from
all this
marijuana.
Is it's like first impression, except that there are states and experts on the mainland that can help us describe their experience and give us guidance on how we can fashion our system here.
We're not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
But in some extent, to some extent, every wheel is different,
Yeah.
no matter which state you're in. So we are in the process of moving forward. We have guidelines. We have demands in terms of where it needs to be. And I think what we're going to be seeing is, and I think we were talking about this a little earlier, is we're going to see the philosophy behind it then merged with a pragmatic approach, because the demands on the Department of Health are myriad, but a lot of it falls under the discretion of the director. And by the same token, pragmatism is something will be absolutely necessary to keep it marching forward with very, very short and very, very stringent timelines.
Yeah, practical reality test, all that, so it fits in the community and it doesn't run into problems. So we talked before about the number of, permits that are going to be issued. 8 in Oahu, 2 in the Big Island, 2 in Maui, 1 in Kauai. And that's what that decision about who gets those permits is going to be made by this commission that was
Correct.
established, I guess, under the statute by the Department of Health to make that decision. And that commission is a secret commission. And presumably that's because the drafters didn't want them to be inappropriately influenced in the course of their decision process.
We go to a tremendous degree of trying to keep politics and influence out of the picture in some of these very significant decisions that are made throughout the community. And here is one where there is a very avid and vivid idea as to which is better. And do you disclose this now, or do you refuse to disclose it, and then it's going to get out anyway and it's going to be subject to influence because you haven't disclosed it? I am at the exact opposite feeling of that. I believe the second you expose these people, everybody, whether it's friends, relatives, you name it, they are going to be subject to influences.
It's a small town.
It's a small town, and you're going to get, somebody's going to call up and say, hey, look, you know, it was great seeing you at the Christmas party. Now we need to start talking about some really significant things. We've been friends for years. You know,
Went to high school together.
You know, and all of those things. And frankly, you know, those are decisions that a lot of people have to make on a daily basis. If you're a significant employer, and it doesn't matter if somebody's your friend, if they're not doing their job, you have an obligation to the organization to sit there and say, I'm sorry, it's time for our paths to part, or you clean up your act.
So you're in favor of secrecy?
I am in this instance. I'm not,
how do you distinguish this board, this commission, from all the other, you know, sunshine commissions, if you will, that try so hard under the state law to be transparent?
Well, this has also got a part of the business aspect in it as well. And business aspects, you don't normally march into the CEO's headquarters or his office and pound the thing and say, I want to know exactly who's getting paid what in this place. You know, I once had the misfortune of everybody's salary got out in terms of one of the places that I was running. Yeah. It's awful. I mean, everybody, there is, no matter how incompetent somebody is, and there are places in any organization where you can have somebody who isn't really up to snuff for anything except some fairly menial task. Yeah. And they believe that they are the linchpin of how that organization works, and will tell you that. And when they find out that this other person is getting more money than they are, then all havoc breaks loose. And it's terrible, terrible for the morale of everybody involved. Yeah. And so I think that is exactly what's going to happen. And I think it's detrimental to the workplace. I think it's detrimental in government when it happens unnecessarily. And I think this is one of those instances where you are going to have all the information you need once we have gotten to the hurdle of implementing this thing. And that's downline. And then you can know all the commissioners to your heart's content.
The actual applicants, are they publicly disclosed, or are they also secret?
No, they're publicly disclosed. There was a list of them that's already gone out. So,
how many are there?
Well, I think there were 33 on Oahu and 44 altogether.
Counting this up, this would be 13 altogether. Permits that are going to be issued.
Yeah, and they go. I mean, they go hand in hand. I mean, there's, you know, they're matched up with each other.
So you're representing at least one of these.
The wellness group, and you can only represent one, and you can only represent it in one county. So I can only represent it here on Oahu, and I represent the wellness group, which is basically a bunch of healthcare professionals, all of whom are convinced that this is the medicine of the future, and it does have international and worldwide implications.
Is there any step taken to avoid unsavory applicants, you know?
Oh, they do everything humanly possible to try and find out, has this person, if you are putting together this application, the last thing you want is somebody who isn't crystal clean. If they have a drunk driving, if they've done something wrong in the past, those can be automatic disqualifiers, not because it's written there, but because you're afraid that that's going to influence your ability to be picked for the licensing. So that makes a bunch of sense if you think about it, because if you've got somebody who's a shady character and they're coming in, and there are shady characters around the marijuana industry, you do not want under any circumstances that to impact your ability to go. So what you need, of course, is somebody on a white horse with shining armor, with their, you know, basically their lance forward. Let's talk about city prosecutors.
Got it. You heard it here on Think Tank. I thought you were driving down that road.
A little obvious, wasn't it? So
what's in the application? What are you going to put in there?
Oh, you've got all sorts of, well, actually, it's not particularly complicated. If you take a look at the actual requirements, it's pretty fundamental. You know, you have to be a certain age. You have to have your driver's license or a passport so we can identify who you are. We need to know your criminal record.
You don't have to be a Hawaii resident, though, right?
You do have to be, the majority has to be a Hawaii resident. It doesn't have to be everybody. But yes, there is a very, very strong favor to have this, a group of people from Hawaii. And frankly, the wellness group, since I'm representing them, they're represented by healthcare officials who are healthcare professionals who are entirely from Hawaii.
Yeah, you have to show that you have a business plan. That you describe exactly how you're going to do your enterprise.
That's the key, because I mean, really, this is going to be a business. I mean, after we get the science all taken care of, after we get all of the brouhaha over what's medicinal and what's not, and all of the rest of the things that are part of the show right now, this is basically business. You're going to be running a multi-million-dollar corporation, and you need to have a CEO, you need to have a financial, and you have to have, number one is going to be the compliance officer. Because if you mess up with compliance, it's not a, oops, that's a bad thing. It's basically something that will go towards your record that could eliminate you from getting it in the first. You're talking about a violation and not just a fine.
Do you have to show that you have capital or some funding source?
Yes, you have to have $1.2 million there and available throughout the process. Then there's a $75,000 licensing fee, and then after that, the costs of actually implementing it, if you're using the most sophisticated of technologies, which we believe we've got from Abcan, then you're talking about anywhere from $8 to $12 million and even more than that. But once you have the license, then the investors will come.
So what is the license? Is it in perpetuity, or is it for a term of years?
No, it goes, you have to renew it every year.
Okay, so that means that the guys who are writing down everything you're saying today, because they want to do it too, A, they're too late because the deadline already passed, all those applications are in, but B, there'll be another time later where they could apply.
2017, there's going to be another option available to them.
Okay, so write it down. We'll give you about a minute to write it down. That's Peter Carlisle, former mayor and city prosecutor. We'll be right back talking more about medical marijuana goes mainstream in Hawaii.
Aloha! How you doing? It's me, Angus McTech, wishing you to welcome and join us to see us on Hibachi Talk on Think Tech Hawaii. Join my co-hosts, Gordo the Tech Czar and Andrew the Security Guy, every Friday from 1300 to 1345. We look forward to seeing you. We'll talk tech and we'll have some wee bit of fun. And remember, let your wing gang free wherever you be. Aloha!
Hello, I'm Stephen Katz, and I'm the host of Shrink Wrap, which comes to you live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. on thinktechhawaii.com, and then it's repeated again whenever you want if you go to the website. On our show, we will be talking to all different kinds of therapists, psychologists, psychoanalysts, psychiatrists, people who talk about the mind, the brain, and about different ways to find happiness. I myself am a marriage and family therapist in practice here in Hawaii, and I hope you will join us because I've got a lot to learn, you've got a lot to learn, and it's a great ride. Thanks a lot. See you soon.
Bingo, we're back with Peter Carlisle, former mayor and city prosecutor of Honolulu, talking about medical marijuana. This is really important. Probably change our society to some extent, don't you think?
I think it's certainly going to change delivery of medicine that had previously been prohibited. And to some extent, it may change our society, and hopefully, if done correctly, it'll be for the better.
You know, we have a show on Tuesday, 4 to 5, called Aging with Grace. And I feel that this discussion is also relevant for that show, because when you age, you know, you come across new diseases all the time, you don't get younger. And this would be relevant to improving the quality of life.
Isn't Aging with Grace an oxymoron?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It reminds me of George Burns and Gracie Allen. Gracie Allen is not part of that show. So here we are, they're going to make a decision. When are they going to make a decision? This summer?
Yeah, the decision, we're going to find out who gets it on April 15th.
Okay, that'd be before the decision on NextEra, I think.
I would suspect the answer to that may be very, very, you think?
So the decision is made. You know, you're hoping that Wellness will get a license, a permit. What is it again?
It's a license.
It's a license. What happens then? You know, what's the plan? How do you evolve your business then?
Well, I think the first thing my perspective is, the first thing is you go over to the Department of Health and say, okay, hey, listen, how can we help? How can we get this to work absolutely according to the law and move it forward as quickly as possible? What can we do? How can we hold hands together and march down this path to implementation? And I think that'll be true for all of the people who have licenses. I think that that's a pretty obvious route to take, and they've got a lot on their plate. They've got a tremendous amount. This isn't the only thing that they're doing by any stretch of the imagination. You can tell that with the outbreaks that we've got.
Dengue and Zika, who knows what.
You name it. So I think that this is your time to go forward and help to the greatest extent you can by doing all of the things as upfront as possible at that point.
Trying to fashion a new system, and collaboration is really the order of the day.
And each one of the people who is putting forward these requests, I mean, they've got a lot of backing in terms of business experience and business acumen and those types of things, as well as typically a lot of connections in the community. And all of those things are going to be real helpful. And one of the first things that you're going to want to do real quickly when you get the chance is to start educating people about medicinal marijuana.
In the community,
You name it.
public education.
Everywhere.
You can come back here and do this again.
I could certainly come back here at a small fee, and so far my fee is very small. But yeah, I think that you'd have to be, you do the talking circuit, circuit like you do when you're a politician. You're going to go to the Rotary clubs. You're going to be going to everybody who has a group of 20 or more people.
You've been there.
And been there, seen that, done that, and you're going to be able to let them know this is something that we're doing. And by the way, do you have anything that you can bring to the table? Do you have some ideas that you have? We've already had a couple of very interesting questions. Why wouldn't this be a golden opportunity to see what they have to offer?
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, I've already got an offer from people to come and see us if we're awarded the thing from places as far away as the East Coast and the Midwest and California.
So how does the business work? I mean, because you have a dispensary, that's where you sell the medical marijuana. And then you have a growing area. What are the limitations, the parameters?
Well,
of
the
those
growing
two
area
facilities?
is very rigidly defined, and you have to have warehouses of a certain size. They have to be of certain materials. They have to be secure. Security is an immense question when you're dealing with this. And the same thing with dispensaries. Are you going to put it in a neighborhood where everybody hates you and they can't stand the idea of having you there? Are you going to put it in a place where it's highly visible and an easy corridor for people to get to? Are you going to have it? Are you going to have them in different locations? All of those things are going to be in the play. So there's real estate aspects of it that are very absolutely critical. There is the technology behind it, which is extremely sophisticated. The stuff that we've got coming from Abcan is worth a tremendous amount of money, and they've got.
Well, what is Abcan?
Oh, that's the Canadian group that we're affiliated with. That brings this technology to the table that is probably as sophisticated.
Growing processing technology.
Growing, processing, and funding, all of those things they've done for years, and they've done it exceptionally well. So Canada's got a good system.
So would I find this in a shopping center? I mean, would I expect to find this on the third deck of Ala Moana?
Well, you could find it if you have, for example, a medical facility there. That might be something that would be.
Yeah, so you want to be near a medical facility.
Well, you could be. I mean, there's a number of different things to calculate in terms of what your product is and what you need to do, and it's going to involve probably where the production center is as well, so it's all going to have to be coordinated. But there is the potential of it being in some location that's already got security, that's already got the types of facility that make it, that are designed to allow a product such as this to be either created or distributed.
You think you'd have resistance from landlords?
I think you might. Well, a landlord is usually interested in having
Rent
and a long-term tenant who attracts other tenants.
Yeah.
And I think if it was bringing in the riffraff of the world, they wouldn't want it.
Sure.
That's not going to be happening, so it shouldn't be happening. And if you have a very sophisticated client base, you might want to be close to those people.
See, it's like, it's a drugstore. It could be next to a drugstore or in a drugstore as a small, enclosed unit in a drugstore.
Eventually, there is a big hope that this will be something that can be gotten into a drugstore. There is a delivery system of basically marijuana that the hope is that this will be able to give an appropriate dose, since dosage is so critical. And so you would be basically writing out a script and saying, okay, for this 10-pound young person and this 250-pound person, this is the amount, this is the dose, and it will come consistently. It will be measured by your reaction to it and you will be able to get more and more sophisticated, and the people who are giving this to themselves would have something that's as convenient as an inhaler.
Ah, you take marijuana by inhaling it?
I believe that that's the way it's been done most of the time.
Sorry.
So yeah, I know how naive we all are on this
We all
subject
are,
matter,
yeah.
but I've seen those things. I saw the reefer madness. It was always going through the mouth. So,
What's the role of doctors in all this? I mean, would you affiliate with doctors? What kind of prescription from what doctor? What are the parameters on that?
well, from us, the wellness group is entirely doctor-oriented. So, and I think that you would have a balance after a while, where you would have doctors basically giving up some of the range to the people who are the business professionals. And then they would still have a say through board of directors and all of those types of things. But yeah, it's very much an effort that is going to be evolving even beyond the massive evolution that's going to be the initial influx of dispensaries and production centers.
You think some doctors will resist and decline to participate?
They can. I believe that probably there will be some who will do it. I believe some bankers will be,
bankers, yeah.
unhappy about it, and they will say that this is not something for us. But all of those things are ultimately going to change in a good way, I hope, when people are satisfied that this is scientifically developed medicine.
Now, I know you wouldn't necessarily favor recreational marijuana, but a lot of people feel this is on the road there.
I would not necessarily. I would necessarily not favor.
Got it.
Legalizing
Sorry, I misstated
marijuana.
that.
Let me make that
Former prosecutor.
black and white. Okay. Yes. No.
Okay, got it. But there are those, including members of the legislature, who are thinking about that. And we may in a year or two see a bill for recreational marijuana to follow this. So in a sense, what's happening now is a test. It's a laboratory. See how well it does. If it does well, then the likelihood of that bill passing is greater. If it doesn't do well, the likelihood is way less. So we're on tenterhooks here, aren't we? To see if we can do it right. To see if we can make it, make the right dosages, get the right data, learn a lot of medical, lessons in the process, and see how it integrates into the community. So my question is, what do you worry about? Do you worry that something will go wrong? What kinds of things could go wrong?
I worry. It's just like doing a trial. I worry that I've missed some small thing where, it's going to blow up in the long run and come back to bite us. I think that worry pretty much dissipated once the application was accepted. On the other hand, I want to make absolutely sure that when you're controlling this business, that you're doing it in such a way that it progresses and such a way that's going to give us something that we can be proud of. But by the same token, we have to be absolutely certain that there aren't any of these dangerous influences. And wherever you've got a place which is seen as a gold mine, which frankly, that's what a lot of people think this is, you want to make absolutely certain that you do not in any shape, fashion, or form bring in any of those, the darker side of the human condition and those people who would bring dishonorable and criminal behavior to the table.
This question came up in the law school program that I was at. I moderated, and I'll let you post it to you. Do we know how much it's going to cost to buy, whatever dose would be appropriate? Is anybody talking about price? Was that in the application? Is that in the discussion? How will price be set? Will it be competitive? Will it be set in some way? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, again, this is something that's happening elsewhere. I mean, we can already see that, and there is going to be this friction between the black market and the medical market. And much will depend on the product that's being given, on how it will help people, and there's going to be a lot of research that's going to have to be done. That's going to be very expensive. How do you basically elongate that so you return the amount that you've invested, and you've turned a profit at some point, and yet we've learned more about the product itself and who it can help and who it cannot help. And are there instances where there are bad results? I mean, certainly that's something that you want to know about.
Yeah. One fellow at that discussion said, because of the parameters of the bill, because of the regulation by the Department of Health, it's likely that the product that you will buy in a licensed dispensary will be a much higher quality product than a black market product. But, this is my last question because we're out of time, but how will this affect prosecutions of people who are doing black market marijuana?
My hope is that it will continue as business as usual. We're not going to make it the most important drug on the planet Earth, because it's not. It's not the most, we're less worried about somebody who's high on marijuana than somebody who's on crystal meth, obviously. So, but we want to have it absolutely, completely and strictly enforced if it's an illegal act. You enforce the law. That's one of the, you know.
You sound like Rudolph Giuliani.
Well, it's sort of like that. I hope not, but you know, I mean, I have the same attitude to some extent to with the homeless problem. I mean, we've got laws, and apparently they don't apply to these people, and that's, my mind, a disservice to them and a disservice to the community. So, but let me throw that big one out there so that you can have another person come in and talk about that, because frankly, I don't feel like it today.
We didn't have enough time today. It's Peter Carlisle. He's going to leave us in a minute, but thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure seeing you again.
I want to have you back and continue the discussion.
I'd love to return.
Aloha.